Innovation is core to what we do. If you think about Hilton, going back over what is nearly a 100-year history, in a lot of ways, we invented many of the things that exist in the global hospitality business today, reservation systems. I mean, the little things you take for granted, putting ironing boards in rooms, delivering newspapers back when that mattered, room service, and a whole list of other things. So I think we feel and have been at the forefront of innovation and really a pioneer in the business, both in terms of what we're doing for customers and where we're going in the world. So in this region of the world, we've been here a long, long time, ahead of a lot of our international competitors. Having said that, I think the robot is actually, as I stare at it, a great lead-in, which isn't to say that artificial intelligence isn't going to be a big part of our future in every way, and that robotics aren't going to be a big part of our future. But from my point of view, in a really simplistic way, I still look at our business as, at its core, a hospitality business where we're going to be a business of people serving people. And there's always going to be people involved, because part of the element of what we do to differentiate ourselves is delivering that experience, something that's different than people can get in another place, something that's special, something that's memorable, something that makes them want to come back. Mm-hmm. And maybe robots are going to get good enough to do that, but I somehow doubt it. And so the way I think of innovation, robots or otherwise, is how do we take the core of what we do and make it better? How do we take out more robotic tasks or things that machines can do today or the machines of the future can do, and do them much more reliably and much more simply, where they're not really the alpha in the business, if you will. They're more the sort of table stakes, and use it in that way and repurpose the hearts and souls that are always going to be part of our business towards making experiences for customers an even better experience. So a great example of that is our digital key, digital check-in, room selection, digital key, which we're deploying on a.
Is that with the mobile phone?
Yes, with the mobile phone. I don't have mine.
Is that a security issue though as well at the moment?
No, we have put in incredibly enhanced security protocols. We've had zero. I think frankly we're more secure in the current format than we would be with a typical card reader system. I think we're 100% convinced of that. It's not that there aren't risks in life in anything you do in innovation, but the idea there is, this is something that a customer does 100% of the time. Every customer, 100% of the customers, 100% of the time, have to check into one of our hotels. And there's a way to do it that, that machines can do it to make it more reliable, upgrades, make it seamless, let you pick your room and delight you, and let you get there quickly and efficiently. What does that allow? It allows you to repurpose the people that might have been focused on that to be out and about and with the people trying to enhance the experience. So that's how, at a high level, how we think about it. How do we do it is a more difficult question. We're a very big global company. We're 350,000 people trying to do all this great work and deliver all this great hospitality. As you might expect, I'm pretty proud of what we've done. We've had a decade that started, almost 10 years ago with going private transaction and taking a company that was a good company, had been around, almost 90 years at the time. But the truth is, it had been put together by merger and acquisition, and I'd say it lost its way. If you look at, sort of any scientific metrics of global market share of brands, global footprint, existing footprint, global share of pipeline in all the major regions of the world, customer satisfaction, and I can go on and on and on. We had gone from, you could argue, in the 50s, 60s, and much of the 70s to sort of being the pioneer and the leader in most regions of the world to being sort of middle of the pack. And that wasn't good enough. So we moved, maybe not fast enough as I look back on it, but we moved, I think quite rapidly to transform the company and to get the company and its people, and that was really the thrust of it, rallied around a common cause. And the story, when and if ever written, is really the rebuilding of a culture, to get people united around a common purpose, united around the impact that we can have around the globe, united around doing great things for customers, doing wonderful work for owners, being a huge part of our communities. and creating great opportunities for our own team members all over the world to grow and learn and have bigger and better things to do. And when you're not growing, you're really not able to do many of those things in the way that you would like to. And so we spent a lot of time, on a lot of stages and in a lot of different venues with our teams, getting them rallied around, a core sort of mission, vision, values, and set of priorities. And so I think 10 years later, when I look back at it, I'm proud of what we've done.
So who do you get your inspiration from?
Gosh, I get it all over the place. I'd say always my family. I have a big family. I married my childhood sweetheart, so this poor woman's been stuck with me since we were teenagers. A wonderful woman that lets me go do this, run around the world.
House full of women, I guess.
And I have 6 daughters, which means in a sense I get very well taken care of, because my wife always reminds me they take better care of their dad than their mom. But in another sense, I have a lot of bosses. When I go home, I always sort of tease the team at the office, like it's nice to come to the office where I'm sort of the boss. When I go home, I'm really not the boss. Right. But and that I shouldn't say sort of. I really am not the boss. But it is my family, my wife, children, and my father and mother are alive. We're very close family, and so I get a lot of inspiration seeing them make their way in the world. And then honestly, my purpose is sort of, that we all have our things, and mine I'd say is equally split between my family, which is, the closest thing to my heart, but it's also our people, and it's what I do. I do this job, which is, and I'm not complaining. It's a hard job. I travel like you. I'm all over the world all the time. I'm away from the other part of my purpose frequently.
Do you always do your own packing?
I always do my own packing. I've never had anybody pack for me. I'm way too neurotic about that. I want what I want. But the thing that gives me the inspiration in the other half of my life is our people. When I travel, like yesterday, Saudi Arabia, arriving here last night, staying at the DoubleTree, just seeing how excited the people of our company are, how thrilled and proud they are to be part of what we're doing, having them understand in, I think, a very real way what we're about, why we're here, what we're trying to do. And I think in a way, as I described earlier, so I won't repeat it, much more so than they ever have. That's inspiring. They do all the hard work, and yet they show up every day loving what they do, wanting to serve customers with a big smile on their face. And the fact that I get to play a small role in that makes me pretty proud and definitely gives me inspiration. I go home all the time. I do one of these trips, generally every other week, and my family sort of laughs at me when I get home because I'm generally full of energy and ideas that I've got. Ideas from all the people I talk to out in the field. Energy just because it's hard not to be completely swept away with our people. And so I get a lot of inspiration from our teams.
Incubate the entrepreneurial startups as well.
We are a big company, and I think we very much act like a small entrepreneurial company. And there are a bunch of ways that we do it. The truth is, like any of us, we could do it better. And it's something I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about all the time. How do we get more agile, faster, better? I know a bunch of my team is here, and they're probably smiling, thinking, yeah, we can do better. And they're right. But what we've tried to do is first, keep it simple, stupid. That's a basic rule of thumb, is let it be driven by the customer, and let it be driven by our teams on the front line, helping us figure out what customers want. So if you think about what we're doing with Digital Key, or what we're doing with food and beverage options in any of our brand, if you think about what we're doing with our new brand launches, why are we doing what we're doing, at what price point, how did we develop the product, it is all driven by what we know the customer wants, because our team members that are closest to the customer on the front lines are telling us that. And so we've created mechanisms that ultimately ripple up through it, and in an innovation council context that sort of filter thousands, tens of thousands of ideas, many of which are good, not all of which are good, or not all of which are timely, and try and filter all of that to say, all right, how do we set our priorities against what we think the customer ultimately really wants? And it's, again, we're not perfect. It's been working. I think if you think about not just the 100-year history, but even our last decade, I think we've done some pretty interesting things. You think about some of the digital enhancements, the #1 app in travel at the moment, really the only one at scale in the world that's going to have digital check-in. We're the only ones that had at scale room selection. These things aren't easy, but we're getting them done, and I do think they will help us revolutionize the business. Obviously, everybody will be there at some point, but revolutionizing the business to me is back to where I started. It's back to delivering great experiences. It's back to taking some of the mechanical things that a machine can do and let it do it really well, to repurpose our people so that the alpha is providing better, having our hearts and souls focus more on the experience in the moment.
Yeah. So
as you look forward into the 21st century, do you think the need for transformation for companies is going to be more or less?
I think of the next decade or two as different than what we might have seen 10, 20, 30 years ago, and that is, I kind of call it it's going to be the age of empowerment, and that is being able to run big global companies that are far-reaching geographically, that have functional structures or matrix structures that circle the globe, that are very complex businesses, and that no one or small group of people can ultimately really know enough about what's going on and to effectively manage every detail of a business around that is that big a base. Being able to push decision making down in the organization, and as a result, and empower people throughout an organization structurally and geographically to be able to move the ball forward and advance the priorities of the company. And those that do that well, I think, are going to really succeed and outperform those that don't.